Good evening, and thank you for virtually attending this keynote speaker event. Our speaker tonight, tuning in from the DFW area, is Baylor University alumnus and Regional President of Patterson Dental, Clint Edens. Clint has worked for Patterson Dental, one of the largest dental supply companies in the United States, for over 15 years in various sales and management positions. As Regional President, Clint is responsible for over 400 employees, 13 branch locations, and over $320 million in business. Aside from his role as regional president, Clint serves as an investment and finance committee member for the Patterson Foundation, a member at large in the Young Presidents Organization, and an advisor for the Baylor University Center for Professional Selling. Tonight, Clint will be sharing his insight into selling yourself in your career, as well as the lessons he learned while leading his team through the pandemic and a complete shutdown of the dental industry. Thank you, Clint.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me, and hello, everybody out there. It's the first for me doing a Zoom call, so I'm just getting to see everybody in person, but hope everybody's doing well. So to get things off, if you guys will kind of put yourself in a mini time machine and go back in time 20 years. So I know that's a long, long time, but that's when I was graduating from Baylor. So the year was 1999. I was there in Waco. Our football team, I wrote this down, was 1-10 after a series of terrible football seasons before that. Our men's basketball team was 4-12 in the Big 12. Women's basketball, believe it or not, was 2-12 in the Big 12. And I was making my final lap at Baylor, year 4.5, getting ready to graduate. So all that stuff going on, and then we had this little thing that was happening called Y2K. And what Y2K was all the computers were set up for the years to be 1999, for instance, but they were just coded as 99. So the theory was when at midnight on December 31st, year 2000, which was coming, that when it hit 00, the whole world would think that it was 1900 and not 2000, and everything would be crumbling down. So all that stuff's going on at this time. Just want to put you in the mindset. And I'm a management major at Baylor. I'm staring down graduating in December. So things are starting to get serious. And on top of going to Baylor, I also worked at FedEx. And I worked as a outbound supervisor, so the nighttime group at FedEx. And so essentially what I did was I had a crew, and when all the truck drivers in the Central Texas area, there's about 15 of them, they'd go out throughout the day, make their deliveries, and then they would make pickups of packages to ship out. They'd bring them to us at the Waco facility. We would sort all those things in. We'd get to work about 4 in the afternoon. We'd work until 11 o'clock at night. It was a hot and muggy warehouse. I think it was even hot and muggy in January, amazingly. That's what I remember, it being hot and muggy. And we'd unload all these packages. We'd have to deal with rough and gruff truck drivers, work with line haul. We'd sort everything out by zip code, load it neatly in 2 trailers. One would go to Houston, one would go to Dallas for overnight delivery for the next day. So a lot of pressure to get all those packages out. And about this time, 20 years ago, I distinctly remember a salesman coming in. His name was Lauren, and I got into the office at about 3:45. He was sitting there waiting for me, still in his golf attire. He just came off the golf course. I think he even had a tan line on his hand from his golf club. And he came in to not thank me for the several months of tens of thousands of packages that had been delivered on time, but to really hammer on me, why did we have this one package 2 weeks ago go out late? And what happened with that one package was it got stuck behind a wheel well in one of the trucks. And anyway, we just overlooked it and missed it. But he wanted to know an answer for that. And then he had to leave because he had a long weekend plan. Meanwhile, I'm showing up to work till about 11 o'clock at night on a Friday. So at that moment in my career, I decided operations wasn't for me. I need to get into sales. So no, that's partially true. The other part of why I wanted to get into sales was there was an article I read at the time that stated that about 20 to 25% of the CEOs worldwide started their career in sales. And I've been a very focused person, throughout college and then throughout my career. I knew what I wanted, and leadership is what I wanted. And I knew graduating out of Baylor, there were 2 things I didn't know. One was stocks, still don't know much. And then the second thing was sales. And I needed to get out there and learn how to sell. So there began my career with selling upon graduation in December. And today, I just want to share with you guys some lessons from my career. So, really what I'd like for you guys to walk away from is a few advantages. some things that I've learned along the way that may help you with perspective and help you understand the value of sales in your career. So just hopefully you gain a few pearls out of today and realize that sales is valuable for the customer, but it's also valuable for you as an individual in your career and honestly in your everyday life. So looking at the career, and the title here, this first part of the talk is really selling through your career. The one thing I'd like for all of you guys to think about is that sales is everything. Everyone is in sales, whether they like it or not. You know, I remember back again when I was in college and then throughout my career, when you think of when people who are not in sales think of a prototypical salesperson, who do they think of? You know, they think of somebody that's cheesy, perhaps somebody that's a little pushy, maybe somebody as extreme as gold chains and things, but you know, someone who smiles a little too much and has kind of a fake facade about them. But quite honestly, everything is sales. In Patterson Dental, what we do is we sell supplies, equipment, technical service, software. We want to be a one-stop shop for all things dental for a dental customer. Dentists should focus on taking care of their patients. They shouldn't have to worry about all of these ancillary business things. And if they do have an issue, if they need something, they should have one phone that they can call and get those things resolved. When we talk to dentists, you know, we help them understand that they are in sales as well. And what I'd like for you guys to think about in terms of how I'm describing sales or how I think about sales is the bridge picture that's on the slide. You know, the role of a salesperson is to get someone from one side of the bridge, which is where they currently are, to the other side of the bridge, which is where they want to be. Has nothing to do with quotes, has nothing to do with proposals, has nothing really to do with closing. It's just about getting an individual, a group, a business, a peer, however, from where they are to where they want to be. And our role as professional sales people is to be that bridge and help them get across that. Now, in order for that to happen or for that to occur, comes with the understanding that sales is a skill. You know, sales is not just the gift of gab. Someone who likes to talk a lot, while they'd be a really great salesperson, it's kind of like someone who argues and saying that they'd be a really good lawyer. It's kind of ridiculous. You know, but sales, the best salespeople are consultative. You know, they're looking out for mutual beneficial relationships. It's a partnership. And the skill aspect of sales is it takes precision, it takes practice, it takes reflectiveness, it takes continual learning, and it takes, again, constant refinement. You know, I firmly believe being a sales professional is just as much of a skill as being a dentist or an accountant or an attorney. May not have to go to school quite as long, but it is a professional skill to help, and it will continue to lead you through your life. And so to articulate that, I'll tell you a little bit about my journey and how sales could potentially be a journey within your career as you look forward. So if you rewind back to when I started and talked to, you know, I was at FedEx and I realized that sales was what I was going after because we had a jerk salesperson come out on the dock. But in all seriousness, I knew that being a CEO or an executive was what I wanted, and that 25% of them started out in the sales path. I sought upon graduation sales jobs. Now, I was a management major, and so to get a sales job, I needed to get sales experience. So I went to work for a staffing company, and at that company, I started as a recruiter for a very short time while I developed my sales territory. And my sales territory, I went for something that was, you know, a bit out of the norm. It wasn't the normal path everyone was taking. It was a scientific staffing company. And to take a step back, when I found this staffing company, I knew that I couldn't sell, but I sought an opportunity where I could learn to sell. And while I was working at this recruiting company, I didn't try to sell transportation services because I worked at a dock for a transportation company. I tried to learn how to sell or develop an opportunity for something I didn't know, which was scientific staffing and placing scientists on contract level positions. And my first point here is throughout my career, and hopefully this is something that you can apply to yours, I sought to improve my skill set as opposed to chase paychecks and dollars. I knew what I knew, and for the most part, at least I thought I knew what I didn't know. Come to find out there's a whole lot more I didn't know, but I knew what skills I didn't have. And so I sought out opportunities to build upon what I had. So I knew I knew nothing about science. I took a physics class at Baylor, which was kind of a light class. And that's about all I knew for science. So to be a scientific staffing expert, I had to do a lot of study. I had to learn a lot of things technical. I had to learn to apply verbally lingo, not truly understanding what it is, but learning how to apply it within the current sales cycle. And then through that, I got promoted. I was in Austin at the time to a larger market, which was in Houston. So I started the same division of that company, a scientific staffing company in Houston. Fast forward a few years, I was becoming frustrated. I realized that we weren't the cheapest recruiting company. So I was having a tough time being able to sell the value that we provided. Our company, we would provide one resume for each job as opposed to just shuttling a bunch of resumes to the customer. And I had a hard time explaining why that was worth spending more money through us. I also was having a tough time because I was selling the intangible, which was people, which I felt was good, but I felt I needed to learn how to sell tangible products and goods. So enters the dental industry. I found a role with a company called Burkhart Dental in Houston, Texas. And I started my journey as a salesperson, not because I was making more money, but because I knew at a distributor level of sales, I was selling products and services that all of our competitors had the same access to. So I needed to be able to sell value above and beyond the product, while at the same time being able to sell tangible products, which I couldn't do when I was in the staffing industry. So I worked there for about 3 years and worked on refining my craft, read a lot of books, put myself through a lot of study, had a great manager at the time that used to role play with me. And then fast forward a few years, there was something that was lacking. The company that I worked for didn't sell very much in terms of capital equipment. And part of that was because of salespeople like myself that were not refined enough to sell capital equipment. So I was good at selling consumables, transactional supplies. So all of the putties, the glues, the things you put in your mouth, gloves, patient bibs, asepsis items. I could sell those things within practices, but when it came to selling $200,000 x-rays, selling chairs, convincing a doctor that the practice that you work in may be functional, however, you need to expand and grow, I didn't have that ability. I also had aspirations to get into leadership. And here came Patterson Dental. So Patterson, being a publicly traded, much larger company, had all the equipment lines that I wish I could sell. They had access to. They also had a structure in which each operation had their own P&L, so that I was able to get a leadership role where I could actually control the budget. And that was appealing for me. And so the best sales job I ever had was selling a $120,000 machine that where you take a picture in the mouth of a cavity, and the machine would mill out a tooth and put it in, so you'd walk out with a crown or a cap in a single visit. I was able to get that job without knowing how to sell equipment or technology. But all joking aside, I was able to apply what I didn't know. It wasn't because I made more money initially, but I knew that there was a skill set that I would learn. So to quickly review, I learned how to sell technically in my previous role. I learned how to, from a very foundational aspect, learn how to sell. I learned how to sell value at a previous company. I learned how to sell the difference between price and cost, and how, yes, this competitor may be cheaper than I am. However, when you look at overall cost of doing business, I'm saving you money through technical service, through shipping charges, through manufacturer promotions and coupons, through saving you and your staff time, because I will enter the orders in for you. Transitioned over to selling a completely shifted product for a dental practice, whereas they're used to making or cleaning out a cavity, putting on a temporary, come back in 2 weeks, and then you get your permanent restoration, to doing that all in one visit. I learned in that role also how to present to thousands of people in ballrooms, lots of dentists. I learned how to close capital equipment, how to sell financing, all the while positioning myself up for a leadership role where I was able to teach those skills and lead a team, which led me to my next role, which was a general manager in Omaha, Nebraska. From there, I'll spare you the details. I was promoted again to Dallas, then I was promoted to be a regional president about 10 years ago. And as Matt did the introduction, I'm over almost $500 million worth of business and a lot of employees. But I'm not done. I still haven't attained my goal of being a CEO, which I will one day. And right now I'm working on skills and resources to better myself to hit that. And it's one thing that Matt mentioned, Young Presidents Organization. It's a networking group of people of similar age of mine where I can learn from their experiences. The whole point of this is that sales is a journey that pays off throughout your entire career. For me to get customers across that bridge to where they wanted to be, I had to know and understand the sales process. For me to get myself to promoted into different roles, to win and influence people, to get initiatives from idea formation to actuality, sales is the conduit. Sales is the bridge that helps me through all that. So mastery through the sales process is the gift that keeps on giving, and hopefully it'll continue to give to you throughout the rest of your career.
Once again, I want to say thank you on behalf of me, the PDP, and all the students listening in as well. As I mentioned before, your couple pearls of wisdom have been uncountable. I cannot even find, and especially when it comes to selling yourself and it's how it's applicable in multiple majors and how to lead through a crisis. Your points to there have been very helpful for me personally, and I know for the audience as well. So thank you again for your time.
Great. I hope that helps everybody, and sick 'em Bears.